Good evening and welcome. This is PJNet.TV. I'm Coach Prasick, and we have a doubleheader for you tonight as we wind up the week. For me, we actually don't wind up the week on Thursday night. Steve Hazards takes over on Friday night, but for me, it's the end of the week. And I always look forward to having Miss Katherine Pasour join us as she is prepared to do right now because she is a very busy person. You have to understand. Well, we're going to talk about that too busy thing before we're done here tonight, aren't we, Miss Catherine?
Probably.
If we get to it. All right.
If we get to it. If we're not too busy.
That's part. That's part of part two. But part one, I found intriguing from your website. You did two blogs this week, and I was unaware. Okay, I know that February is, well, the month that Valentine's Day, which we talk a lot about hearts,
Mm-hmm.
on Valentine's Day.
Uh-huh.
It's also Black History Month, but I didn't know that it was Heart Health Month or something to that effect. How did that come to be? Do you know the history?
I don't know all the history, but it's just a time to emphasize caring for our heart, doing things that are healthy for us.
Well, I won't forget it in the future because Valentine's Day is sometimes associated with, well, hearts. And
That's right.
everybody gets involved in Valentine's Day, and I love you with all my heart.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a little bit more to our heart than the feelings. The heart is actually an internal organ, and it's a blood pump, and it needs some care, needs some maintenance.
Absolutely. I think Valentine's Day takes the highlight for February. And as you say, we always consider February to be the love month and when we celebrate our loved ones, and particularly on the 14th. And I think that's good. And that, of course, the history of Valentine's Day is interesting in itself, but that's not what we're going to talk about tonight. But I read some up on it this week, and it is quite interesting. But as I've talked with us before about how our human bodies are fearfully and wonderfully made, created as God's extra special creation, the heart is just an amazing aspect of our body. And as you mentioned, it's a pump, and it's just designed in an amazing way that only our Lord would be able to do. But as you know, with your background in fitness, our muscles, and which the heart is a muscle. I guess
Mhm.
I'd consider it the most important muscle in our body since we can't live without it. But our muscles get stronger when we work them harder. And I won't go into a lot of detail about different aspects of workouts tonight, but since the heart is a muscle, we help it when we work it harder because we have to do that in a safe way.
Mhm.
But exercise strengthens our heart muscle just as if we're working on something to, well, you doing your push-ups, for example, your 100 push-ups a day. That's work
222, thank you,
222.
in one set.
Oh, and I was just here I was admiring you for doing 100.
Hmm.
Goodness gracious. But those push-ups really work on your upper body strength, particularly your arm muscles. But
Well, the triceps and the shoulders, and the lats, the glutes, not the glutes, the lats.
now your glutes are at the other end.
That's it.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. So we help our heart to get stronger by working it harder. So there's lots of different ways that we can work our heart, and it sort of depends on how old we are and what condition we are when we start. But one thing for certain,
Mhm.
we need exercise at every aspect of our life. From the time that babies are first able to move, they're wiggling and exercising, and then all the way up until we can't move anymore. Exercise is good for us. And there are always appropriate exercises that we can do for our heart based on our age and how we are, our physical condition at that time. But I always encourage people before they start an exercise program to get checked out by their medical professional to be sure that it's safe for them to do. exercises. One great exercise for our heart is to walk. And now that we've been teased by these warm spring like days, at least here in the South, we've had some, the past 2 weeks, we've had some really nice days. Of course, we're going to get a shock this weekend when it gets cold again.
Mm-hmm.
But, walking briskly is really great for our heart. So, how do we know how fast to walk that it's actually doing our heart some good? So, whatever exercise that we're doing, and I'm just using walking as an example, if we get out there and we walk briskly enough that we begin to feel our heart beating faster and we're breathing harder and maybe we even work up a little sweat, we know that that's going to be benefiting our heart because our heart is having to work harder for us to continue to do those exercises to get the oxygen moving throughout the body, carried by the bloodstream. But there's other exercises we can do for our heart, and I know that you are a runner. Aren't you still? Well, now I was going to say a mile a day, but now you're up to 10 miles a day.
1.9 today, and I increase that by
One.
0.1 every week
Okay, so
until
that's
I
a
get to
great.
3.5, and I do that four minimum times per week, sometimes five.
Excellent. That's a good example because we do need 4 or 5 times a week is the ideal time for us to do whatever it is our exercise program involves. And by increasing it point one every week,
Mm-hmm.
you are showing the principle of progression. That means adding on as you progress in your workout. So you've got a good example. When you first started with your push-ups, how many were you doing?
20.
20. So now you're up to 200 and some. That's definite.
222. I've done as many as 302.
How long does it take you to do 200 and whatever it was you said?
Only a couple of minutes, but
Oh,
it's and I want to conserve our time, but it's at that point I'm at. This is now an aerobic exercise when you do that many, because it's not that I give out, not because of muscular failure, but because you're out of breath.
well, an aerobic exercise, it means that you are able to continue the exercise and maintain your breathing as you go along. So when
Mm-hmm.
you're running your mile and whatever, you're doing that aerobically because you don't have to stop. But exercises of short duration are usually
Yeah,
considered anaerobic.
anaerobic.
And when you give out of breath, that's when you stop. And so that's anaerobic means working without oxygen, uh, and then your body has to replenish. So, of course, distance runners, anything over uh, one lap is is moving into the endurance and aerobic type
Mm-hmm.
activities. So you're doing some great activities, Coach. I
Well, I'm going
admire
to offer some
you.
pointers. You bring up some good points, but I don't want. I want to make sure we cover. A lot of people do this to lose weight, and I tell you what, folks, I'm an advocate of exercise, but if you want to lose weight, it's prevention. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure because nutrition is the biggest part of that.
That is true. That is true. A combination is really the best. A combination of regular physical activity and healthy nutrition, and of course, that's on my list of what things to do for your keep your heart healthy. And I will get there. I promise. Let me talk just a little bit more about the heart, though. So, how does exercise help our heart? As I said, it's a muscle, and so the exercise strengthens that muscle. But what does that actually look like for our heart? It helps it be more efficient
Mm-hmm.
so it can contract more forcefully with each beat, and therefore it pushes out more blood with each contraction.
It
So
lowers
it
your heart
doesn't
rate.
have to,
You can
I'm
actually lower
sorry,
your heart rate. It lowers your heart rate as you get in better shape.
that's true. That's
So your
true.
heart works less around the clock. Or no,
Because
it
it's
doesn't
more,
work less. It beats fewer times. I'm sorry.
that's true because it is more efficient and it can do more work with each contraction, and therefore it doesn't have to beat as many times.
Right.
As you said, it lowers your resting heart rate. So over a period of time, and you've probably done this, if people that are in really good physical condition that say have a resting heart rate between 50 and 60, compared to those that are not as fit, who might have a heart rate between of 80 or something like that. If you figure the differences over a lifetime, it's
Hmm.
a huge number
Right.
of heartbeats that the more healthy, fit
Hmm.
person, their
Yeah.
heart doesn't have to work nearly as hard for a lifetime. And now we'd only have one heart. We only
Hmm.
have one, unless we're planning to have some kind of transplant along the way. We only have one heart. So taking good care of it is the best way for us to have a healthy life. So you pointed out nutrition. Yes. Uh, Being physically active is very important in healthy nutrition, which means lots of fruits and vegetables, cutting back on sugar and fried foods, being careful of our fat, choosing healthy carbs rather than the unhealthy carbs. And carbs are not bad. I'm going to talk about carbs maybe another day. Sometimes carbs have a bad reputation, but it's only certain carbs that are really not good for us. There are many, many vegetables and fruits that are very good for us, whole grains and all that. And we need good sleep. And boy, I hesitate to bring that up with you because I know that you've conditioned yourself not to sleep very often. But I'd say for the average normal person, we need a 7 more hours sleep per night. And I know you're going to say, oh, no, you don't. But like I
That's what's
say,
recommended. That's
and it
recommended.
is. It gives our body and our brain and all aspects of our body, except for the heart. Heart has to keep working, but it slows down and sort of takes a tiny little break at night or whenever we sleep. So yes, that's what's recommended, 7 or more, to give our body adequate rest, particularly for our brain. Our brain really does need to rest. And it's a lifetime commitment. It's not something that and you've, I know, are committing in the fourth quarter. I know you would love to point that out, that some of us are in the fourth quarter, but it is a lifetime commitment as long as we are able to exercise and care for our heart. It's good. But we do need to start slowly. If we're not haven't been exercising, we need to start slowly. I wouldn't want to start out with jogging a mile or two or three if we haven't been doing exercises for our heart. Walking is about the best way to start. And don't have to go fast at the beginning. You don't have to go a long time at the beginning. The key is just to start and keep going and add on, as you're doing with your running, add on a little bit each time. So you might start with 10 minutes a day walking and just a moderate pace. And then each week, add on a little bit of time and a little more intensity. Increase the pace so that you can feel yourself working harder. And as I said, the key is to move more. All right. I'll be quiet for a moment. I know you're chomping at the bit to add some insight, and please do.
Uh, Catherine, I concur with you. Heart rate in my mind is everything. Okay, aerobic heart conditioning.
Hmm.
Folks, for those of you who want to, if you get a heart rate meter, you can actually trace this a lot better. And these are some rule of thumbs. Again, refer to your doctors before you begin anything. But here's some general rules of thumb. Take the number 220 and subtract your age. That will give you approximately 100% of your heart rate. That's about as fast as your heart can go. What I do, I recommend exercising at 80% of heart rate. Now, you may have to work up to that. If you start there, you're going to think you're going to die. So work up to that. At 80% heart rate, do that for 20 minutes. So how fast do you walk? Well, if you have a heart rate meter, you'll know by using that formula. And if you want to lose weight, you don't actually start metabolizing fat significantly until the 20th minute. And then all of a sudden, something tremendous happens. At the 20th minute, you've burnt everything other than fat, and then there's nothing left but fat. So if you want to continue more than that. Nutrition. Do you realize a handful of peanuts is about 100 calories? Just a handful of peanuts. And you can look now. When I today ran 1.9 miles, that burnt approximately 190 calories. So in other words, a handful of peanuts and then another handful of peanuts just totally wiped out my workout.
Mm-hmm.
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If you're trying to lose weight, it's a whole lot easier to cut back on how much your caloric intake is than it is to burn it off. Because if you go run 1.9 miles, that takes about 23 minutes. Okay?
And choose what
And
you're
it,
going to put in for your caloric intake.
yeah,
As you point out, peanuts, all nuts are very high in
high
calories,
calories. And
but
by
they
the way,
have good fat. They have the good
oh,
fat
they're
in
high in
them.
fat, but it's anyway. Rest, I'll skip. Stress, um, folks.
Manage your stress. Yes.
Yeah, stress is not a bad thing. Distress is. Okay,
Yes.
stress is a
Eustress is
part
the
is
big
what actually makes life interesting. We're not trying to avoid stress. We're trying to avoid distress. Now, the fact of the matter is you can't, but there are things you can do to manage it.
one.
If we take the stress out of life, it's boring. So everything that happens is not an emergency. Okay, there's things you have to learn, and that's a mental process. So that's my quick tour of training. But that's not all we're here to talk about today. We've only got 3 minutes left according to the clock. But you didn't do just one blog, you did two.
Right.
And the other one has to do with just having a seat with God.
That's right. I learned so much from nature and from my grandchildren. And about 2 weeks ago, my little grandson wanted some attention, and so he doesn't talk yet. He patted me on the leg and pointed, and I followed him, and he led me to a seat, and he patted the seat as if to say, "Come and sit with me." So naturally, I did. I mean, who can resist a cute little 2-year-old? So I sat with him, and I got to thinking, that's what Jesus wants us to do, to take time, stop our busy, busy, busy lifestyle and take time and sit with him and talk with him and pray and just be in his presence and feel his love seeping into us and read his word and study. And he doesn't demand it. It's a request. He just asks us, come and spend some time with me, because he loves us. It's just amazing that he has that much patience with us and puts up with all of our multiple faults. And, and it just, as I said, it just amazes me, his love for us and patience. And that just made me, when my grandson patted that chair and said, I didn't say it, but I knew what he meant. And it's the same way with Jesus. I mean, he doesn't swoop down and get in our face and say, come and sit with me.
Mm-hmm.
He just lets us know we feel it, and we need to let ourselves feel it and answer when he calls.
Well, the word abide comes to mind. The last thing
Mhm.
that Christ, the last time he got to sit with his disciples, he talked about the vine and abiding. And that's the word that comes to mind. But your blog mentioned 3 excuses that sometimes we offer up. First one, too tired. Well, too tired because of what? You weren't too tired to do everything else but sit with
That's
God,
right.
right? So that's not a, it's not, and by the way, when you think you're tired, what that really means is you're just not inspired. If you
That's
were too
good.
if you were too tired and you were laying in your bed to rest and the smoke alarm went off, you wouldn't be tired anymore. Okay, you would find new energy, wouldn't you? Okay,
That's
um,
right.
we sometimes say we're too busy. Oh well, that's the same argument.
Hmm.
Too busy because you were doing what else? Okay, we make time for the things that are a priority.
That's
But
right.
the third excuse that you mentioned in the vlog was something a little different. Is does God really care? Well, all I can offer is that He does. He cares deeply. Um, the thought that God doesn't care for you didn't come from God. I'll put it that way.
You are right. You're
Okay.
right. He shows us every day how much he cares for us. But sometimes I think we feel that we are unworthy, that God has bigger problems to take care of than just
Or
what we're
unworthy
doing.
because of our sin.
Oh,
And
yes.
if only the sinless could approach the throne of God, well, God would
There
get
wouldn't be
lonesome.
anybody there.
God would be lonesome. Okay.
That's true.
um, I wanted to go back to my earlier points. I always try to make this point. If you have not, if you're trying to start a exercise program, discouragement, you've got to manage expectations. And I just like to say it this way: the less you do, the less you can do. The more you do, the more you can do. So it doesn't matter where you're at right now. What matters is that you use the word progression. If you're a couch potato, well, walk around the house. Do anything.
Mhm.
Movement. Any movement is
Yeah,
better than no movement.
that's right.
And just challenge yourself to progress and do a little bit better each day. Uh, Catherine, we're already a couple of minutes over time, but I wanted to
Mhm.
give you the last word because this is such a fascinating topic to both of us.
It is. It is. And the other thing is consistency. Don't give up.
Mm-hmm.
That's we get often get discouraged. We'll start out too hard, too fast.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be tired and sore and aching, and then we just quit. But keep going. Start
By the
out at a
way, if you just
slower
started,
pace.
yeah, and get muscle soreness, we call these DOMS, delayed
Mhm.
onset muscle soreness.
Mhm.
That's natural. That's caused by anaerobic activity. Your body literally creates lactic acid. It literally eats away the muscles and makes you sore, okay? And that's, by the way, they grow back stronger. So soreness is a good thing. But if you want some remediation for that, whole milk is recommended. It's high in lactic acid.
And
it's
just don't try to do too much.
Yeah, it's a lot of
Get a little
calories
bit
in whole milk.
sore, not a lot sore. You don't want to do so much the first day that you can't walk the next
Yeah,
day.
just consistency, ease into it. It's a lifetime commitment. You
Mhm.
don't have,
Right.
you didn't get in this kind of shape overnight. You're not going to get out of it overnight. What matters?
Absolutely.
Trust the program. Catherine, I know we got to go, but I
Gotta go.
had, I literally, I was at 232 pounds. My goal is 190. Do you realize there were 3 weeks that I lost no weight? None.
Oh, I do. We hit
Eh,
plateaus all the
oh
time.
gosh, and it's so discouraging because it
It is.
hurts. I'm telling you, it hurts. But you know what I said?
Keep
I'm gonna
going.
stick. I'm gonna stick to the program. My faith is in the program. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
over the long run, and so I'm hoping to have broken that. But if you want to set a goal to lose weight, if that's your goal, a reasonable goal is 2 pounds a week. You don't have to,
Right.
don't listen to these commercials. I lost all this weight. Well, that's probably not even good for you, but it's not realistic. And like you pointed out, Miss Catherine, people get discouraged, and when they get
Mm-hmm.
discouraged, they tend to quit. We don't want that. Okay, gotta go.
Gotta
But
go.
Catherine, gosh, I'd love to do this again. I always love and button heads with you on how to best do things.
Oh, yes.
We offer
Set
two
up.
different perspectives on the same issue, folks. It's
Mm-hmm.
but Miss Catherine has a lifetime of doing this. I'm pretty new to the game. I started when I was 48 on physical conditioning intentionally. When I was in high school, it wasn't optional if you play football.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But it's been wonderful sharing with you. I've got the website, KatherinePasour.com. You can continue the discussion there, and there's so much more, but we just don't have time to do it all. But Miss Catherine, thank you for sharing with me. I enjoy talking healthy stuff with you because you're such an expert and you're a living testimony to it, and we appreciate you sharing that with
Right.
us tonight.
Thank you.
All righty.
Good night.
Well, Miss Katherine Pasour, and oh, we're not done. We've got Miss Kathy Bruins coming up. She'll be here any minute. I've got so much to do between now and then. Um, Challenge for you. Um, Ask yourself these two questions and answer yourself honestly. What is the boldest thing you've ever done for Jesus Christ? Second question. When was that? The challenge, well, is to never be satisfied with either answer.